What's going on, YouTube? This is Luke with Endless Entrepreneurs here on Tuesday night, coming to you with a little bit of an impromptu show. Got a special guest, Jason from Prof Sales is here, which I don't think I've ever actually had you on my show. I've been on yours, but I don't know that I've hosted you before. This might be a first.
I don't think so. I've been waiting for the invite mail for a while now.
I'm just waiting for the perfect time, Jason. That was all. Why don't you give a quick introduction and I'll give mine afterwards.
Hey guys, I am Prof Sales. I sell on eBay, Amazon, Craigslist, local groups, and so on. You may know me from my YouTube channel as well, which is Prof Sales on YouTube. So check that out if you get a chance. And thank you very much, Luke, for having me on tonight, man. It's always cool to connect.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you joining. And I was actually just been reading this article for a couple days and kind of sitting on it, and I wasn't sure whether I wanted to do a show about it or not. And finally was like, hey, Jason, you want to jump on and talk about this? And he obliged, thankfully, so I appreciate of it. This article actually, I think it's going to impact my business and my model a little bit, possibly. And that's why I just wanted to open forum talk about it. For those of you new to my channel, I am a part-time eBayer and a full-time finance analyst. I work basically 9 to 5 and build my business in my spare time. I primarily sell men's clothing, a little bit of shoes, and starting to get into women's clothing. So all the conversations tonight will probably be centered around those shipping methods. I see we got a bunch of people watching. I got 32 watching live. Thanks for stopping in, guys. I think Jason and I are just going to kind of freeform talk about this article. I'm going to share it for the first couple minutes, and then I'd like to just do some kind of open Q&A for the rest of it, and hopefully we all can learn from each other and share and figure out what this means for everyone as eBay sellers moving forward, and what it might mean for your shipping for your business. So let me just share my screen real quick, and that way you guys will understand exactly what I'm talking about. All right. So I originally found this article. It was written on, it was kind of like a third-party site, and I really wasn't sure how legitimate it was until I found a backlink to the stamps.com website. And it looks like this was a blog post that they put up, and they've been communicating to their customers about a change with USPS, which is, I guess, is going to start on August 1st, which is right around the corner. We got, what, 6 days or so until then. And basically, they're saying they have a new automated package verification system is the way it reads. And basically I think it's got some good and bad to it, but basically they're going to be weighing, and I guess measuring in this case, all of the packages to make sure that the postage paid, the pre-postage paid, matches what the container and what you specified and paid for. And historically what's happened, and I've had it happen one time to me, I underpaid for postage. They must have randomly weighed this one, and they passed the postage owed onto the buyer, not back to me. So my buyer actually had to go to the post office. They had to pay for the shipping to get their item. And I remember dealing with it, they were very unhappy, which I would have been too, about having to do all of that. And I guess the main goal of this change from what I'm reading, and this is just me interpreting the article, is that they're trying to avoid that and they're passing it back to the seller. And so the fees will go back to the seller. There will be no embarrassment passed on to the buyer, and they're trying to make it a better buying experience overall, I believe, is the goal of this. That's how I read it. Jason, is that how you read it?
Yeah, no, I read it the same way. And, I guess from the buyer's standpoint too, you can imagine getting a package and you've paid for shipping, or maybe it was free shipping, and then all of a sudden you realize you have to pay. So USPS is like, we're sending packages around. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's not just for eBay, right?
Right.
Are we reading that correctly? It's all for the stamps.
Yep. It's any prepaid postage, it looks like. So it's all, any platforms you might sell, or really shipping anything with prepaid postage. It doesn't have to be e-commerce related. And I think the general concern, I was reading the forums a little bit and just kind of reading this article, is that if your scale isn't calibrated correctly, that's one of the main things that people are worried about, is say it's, you have your ounce thresholds, which I don't know them exactly, but they're grouped in like 2 to 3 ounces at a time. And once you go above each threshold, it gets a little more expensive to ship. And I think the concern is that, hey, my scale's calibrated off 1 ounce. I paid, for 12 ounces and it really was 13. Is that going to hold up all my shipping and get repaid to me? A. B, how are they going to charge it back to me? Right, especially as like someone who pays through eBay and whatnot, is how long does that process take? Are they going to take it straight on my account? Is it going to be monthly, grouped in with like eBay fee? Like, how are they going to reconcile that? I think was the main concerns. And I don't have the answers to it. It doesn't seem to address it in there. But I would say, I think that's why I want to talk about it. And my thoughts, Jason, were when this starts, I'm just going to round up an extra ounce probably. Like normally if I'm like at 11.1, I would round to 12. I might just go up to 13 and just call it good for a while. And just see if that affects it, just because it's not that big of a difference, especially in like the first class ones. I'd be really ticked if a first class package, like I misweighed it and it was over like a saving 20 cents. Like I feel like I would be really, really upset about that. What do you think, Jason? What are your thoughts on that?
No, I'm probably in the same boat. I mean, I don't have a lot of first class shipping to where it will make too much difference. Mm-hmm. But, you know, and I don't know about you, Luke, but I kind of do that anyway. Like if I have something that weighs in at like 12 ounces on the dot on my scale, I'm always like, but will my scale be the same as their scale? And usually it is, but I think I'm curious to see if like they're going to charge this back through stamps, back through eBay, back through PayPal. Like that's a lot of links back.
Right.
Or will they invoice you? Will they charge your account and then invoice you at the end? Like eBay will pay it and invoice you at the end of the month, maybe? I don't know. I'm not really. I'm kind of curious how it's going to work on the back end.
That's what I'm curious about too, because I mean I know when like you void a shipping label, I've had to do that a couple of times. They eventually reimburse you through your PayPal. So I mean they at least have the linkage established with PayPal. I just don't know, like it would be. I think it would just be a surprise to some sellers, especially if say, and I don't recommend this, but say you had a very low PayPal balance, you're managing a small amount of capital, and all of a sudden they do a reconciliation and whack you for $50 or $60, and it puts you in the red as an account, your account or something like. That would be. I think that's where a lot of people are a little concerned about.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
No, I totally understand that. I just think that it's probably clear on the stamps.com site. But now it's like, all right, eBay, your move. Like, how's this going to work for sellers? And has there been any communication? Have you heard of any? I haven't, but
I haven't, and that's why. I found this article a couple of days ago, and I kind of sat on it because you know how just like news always flies, and there's always doom and gloom. Oh, this is changing, that's changing. I kind of was like, let's just wait and see. And then I saw another one, and then I saw the link to this, and it was like, okay, well, is eBay going to communicate? I know they have eBay Open going on, a lot of other things, but it's like this still affects all of their sellers. So I'd be interested to see if they come out with some formal communication on it. I haven't seen really a lot of other discussion. I've seen a couple viewers have commented about it. They've seen this article. So it's very interesting. And for me, it's not just about that. The other piece that I'll share my screen and talk about again is, well, hold on, let's check chat here for a minute. Let's just see if anyone, try to keep this interactive as we go.
Yeah, there's a question or two in. Flipping Awesome had a question about.
Let's grab a couple of questions, and then I want to talk about flat rate packaging in the second half of the show because that's what's the other piece of this article that I'm a little unsure of. So, go ahead. If you see a question, grab it.
Yeah, there was one from Flipping Awesome who said, "Do you think we should be weighing at the end now? I guess after the item sells, before we ship instead of just the item prior to packaging?"
That's an interesting question. So that's a process question, huh? So I weigh everything when I ship it, and I weigh it in totality. That's just my process. So I guess it doesn't change much for my process. But if you weigh things in the beginning, I would just be very conservative. So like, for instance, if you're using, like I use poly mailers like this, and then I put them in like a opaque one, I would probably add an extra ounce for the extra packaging just to make sure, or 2 ounces to whatever I listed at. But yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I do the same thing. I weigh them at the end. I kind of have an idea, like when I list the item in terms of what I put for my shipping policy, how much it weighs. So if it's in first class, like if it's the first class item and I'm charging shipping, I usually charge like $5. That kind of covers you with plus it, because it's going to cover your cost and kind of your tax liability on the back end is income, but obviously if you want to hit the number right on the head, or for people to do calculated and then just put in the wrong weight,
right?
They're going to have issues with this. They're going to, and you can't always round up an ounce because suppose it's, 15.8 ounces.
Right.
Well,
that's a big difference.
You run up an ounce, you can't do first class. Now you're in a whole other category, but I usually do it at the end as well.
Yeah, I always do it at the end. I mean, that's just how I've done it. And I see someone just asking, like, if they'll penalize you if you do it frequently. That was one of the questions that came up. And I mean, I don't really know. I think that was kind of why I wanted to go live and just talk about it. Is this is not a doom and gloom like look of this. I honestly think from afar, this is a good change. Like, it's preventing buyer embarrassment. It's preventing embarrassment on us as sellers. Our packages aren't delayed getting to our buyers. I think it's a win overall. Like, process end to end, it's a win. It's just logistically trying to figure out how that works coming back to you as a seller is something you got to start planning for. And maybe working into your margin a little extra shipping costs because you need to be more conservative. Like, I don't know what that looks like, but I thought it was worth it.
Yeah, and
for sure.
And do you think too, Luke, that, and I haven't read through the article in depth, but do you think too, like, this maybe will help with issues such as items not getting scanned in? Or, in time, I'm wondering, since it's going to be so automated, like, it seems like that would have to be somewhere in that process.
Yeah, I agree. And I got to imagine that to do this system, they're taking all the manual labor out of it, right? I mean, they're basically going to be dumping it into a machine that probably self-scans and weighs everything, I'm assuming, right? Like, it's not like they're going to speed up the processes with their front-end clerks. I mean, this is going to have to be on the back end. So, yeah, I would think that this overall should speed up the accuracy of shipping and get it there quicker. I would hope. So yeah, that's a good point. Let me share my screen real quick. I want to share. So this is the other part talking about flat rate envelopes, and so this is where I'm a bit unclear. And I think me and Jason were talking a little bit beforehand. I think we're both unclear on this. So I use a lot of the cardboard flat rates, especially because I sell a lot of pants and a lot of like the LL Bean pants and jeans and things like that. And I always fit them very comfortably in there. I never have any like loose like flaps along the seal. Like, I always have them sealed up with eBay tape. I never have any issues. I've never had any issues. I mean, for years. And it's looking like I'm reading through this, and it's hard to figure out if this is pertaining to priority USPS or if it's just pertaining in general to any type of packaging item. And so I look here and it says, remember that large envelopes and flats must always be bendable and have an even surface with no protuberances, I guess is how you say that, or content shifting. A large envelope flat must have. And so when I look here, the height doesn't bother me, the length doesn't bother me because those are all kind of predefined. This is where I'm a little worried. It says thickness minimum of quarter inch, 1/4 of an inch. And so I have two questions that come from this. Is this talking about priority specific, like pre-printed materials like the cardboard flat rates and the like bubble wraps? And two, is it just one of them? Like, is it just the cardboard and not the bubble wraps or the padded flat rates? So I know, Jason, you use like exclusively the padded flat rates, right? Those in poly bags for anything first class. Is that how you ship your jeans?
Yeah, occasionally I do. Occasionally a pair of jeans that will be first class because it'll just be really light. But
right.
I think, Luke, I'm not positive. Maybe somebody in the chat's got a better feeling for this. I think that large envelope / flats in that first bullet point, I think that's an actual category of packaging. Like, I don't think it's not a package. It's an envelope / flat. It's a different category than. I could be wrong about that, and somebody correct me in the chat if I am. But I was just thinking about how it scrolls through when you're picking how you're going to ship something. That maybe like I'm thinking that's a choice, and then there's package and envelope and box, all kinds of things. But so maybe that's all it's talking about, because it can't be that now all of a sudden the maximum thickness is 3/4 inches. Like, that's
right.
Like, that would be a change of policy, even, I would think too, because obviously you've been sending things that have a thickness greater than 3/4 of an inch. So have I. So have an awful lot of people.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is almost all my packages are like, I brought up this one for an example. And so Catherine Dean said that it's not talking about priority at all. Large envelope and flat is the category that includes things like manila envelopes. So that's really good news. That makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. I was looking all over, different priority sites and recommended things and trying to figure out what was standard. I've never been able to find anything that's like, you can't do this. And I'm going to show you guys what I'm doing because I've caught some flack for it from other people. But so this is a pair of LL Bean pants. These are corduroys. And that's why I got a little nervous, because I started doing the whole measuring, and I'm like, well, this is like 3 inches thick. It's pretty close to 3. And I don't know, that's what's interesting to me is if that happened, I would probably have to use, I was thinking about, I'd probably have to use a ton of regional boxes. Like regional A's would probably become a very big staple of my bigger items, especially stuff going to like West Coast that's over a pound. Oh, Wade's in the chat. Hey, Wade, how you doing? Thanks for the super chat there, $10. I'm just gonna quick give Wade a shout out here. He's got an awesome growing channel. You definitely should check it out, Wade's Ventures. He is a eBay seller as well. Really like how polished his videos are. He's been starting to put a lot of them out. So definitely check out his channel if you guys haven't yet. Get over there and subscribe. Appreciate the support, Wade. So someone crazy wonderful just said, so if it fits, it might ship. Yeah, that's where I think a lot of gray area is. I mean, like and it's funny because I've always said in my videos, like I've talked to our postmaster here, and even when I was in New York, I knew him very well, and they always had no problem with this. Like even when I first started on eBay, they recommended, like I came in like, oh, that's really expensive. Put it in this envelope, we'll tape it, and we'll send it for you. And I was like, really? Like that was how I even learned about this. So that's like when I've seen some other people with very extreme stances of like, you can't use that. I'm like, that's just so weird. And I know that it's different from every post office, and you know, each employee has a different view of it, and they enforce it differently in every post office. Because I've heard stories and stories of the way they enforce it differently. But I mean, I think that I'm just kind of sticking to my main mantra of like, if the post office you ship from is okay with it, that's your best bet, I guess.
Yeah, I think you and I use the same post office, I think, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. So you're in good shape.
And it's an interesting post office. The post office is kind of okay, but the delivery sometimes it's. Yeah. I had 2 packages Saturday that I was just going to put in my mailboxes. I didn't feel like going to the post office. I'm like, I'm just going to ship these in the mailbox. Just went right by it. Never even. Didn't even deliver mail. I'm like, well, maybe we didn't get any, but I don't know. We usually get mail every day, but it was interesting. So you've always got to be able to verify, you know, what the post office is doing. You can't always depending on them to get it 100% right, and they're not going to get it 100% right. But you know, they do the best they can. So got to give them a break a little bit too.
Yeah, that's very true. Oh, John B. So John B. just said, Lindy posted a great video with a memo from USPS that clarified the shape of flat rate envelopes. All right, that's great. Well, I definitely check that out, guys. I'm going to check it out after this then probably. John, if you don't mind dropping in the chat, what was the conclusion of that? That would be great, just because I'm curious for this conversation. You know, hopefully that I'm assuming that it's saying that it's fine. And this stuff just very interests me though. I mean, that was why I wanted to go live and talk about it. Is I feel like overall, when you read these things, you're first like, oh man, but like these really are improvements to us as sellers. Like it's creating a better buyer experience. Like I even think back to like the 60-day return thing, and I know it's been very, you know, people have had different stances on it, but I've had 60-day returns since they offered them. I haven't had any increase in returns, and I'm able to say to a buyer, like when they have any questions or they're unsure, I'm like, hey, we have 60-day returns, no question asked. And I've had sales come almost immediately after saying that to some of them. And so I just feel like that and things like this, it just gives us a better look and a better feel to the customer, which is only an added benefit for an eBay seller.
Yeah, I mean, I would hate to think about I ship something to somebody and I screw up the shipping and they have to pay for it. I'm sure it's probably happened. Maybe, well, I don't know. I do a lot of flat rate, but I mean, it's possible it's happened and the person just never said anything. But man, I mean, that would be, that stinks when all of a sudden it's like your package arrives and, oh, that'll be an extra $1.62, ma'am. And you're like, what? You know, it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Not a great customer experience for sure.
No, not at all. Don Steele just made a good point in the chat. He said, I think efficiency-wise for USPS, it's more beneficial to them to accept packed to the brim priority envelopes than over clunky boxes. I think that's absolutely right, because something like this is much easier than a regional box. I mean, the regional box takes up more room. And I will say the one tip I can say is like this, where I'm showing it, this is not acceptable. You can't have that. It has to be sealed with tape across that. I do know that for sure. I've talked to them. Like, you can't have anything that'll catch and cause the package to rip or get caught in the machine and things like that.
Now, does that package close easily a lot for you, Luke? Because I was looking at how, you know, it's kind of like thick. So I can't tell what that is. Okay. But I mean, with the padded ones, they tend to close pretty well, but the end flap like that always is a little not 100% because they don't really even fit together right. Sometimes they're just sort of weird how they're shaped. I don't know how to put it, but do you run into that with that cardboard one? Is it always you're having to put tape on the edges or?
Yeah, I always have to put tape on the edges of these for the most part, even when it's something really thin, because these just tends to like this flap tends to end up like that, and I don't know why. So yeah, I just like Thomas just said, eBay tape it to death. That's what I do, and I also just don't want it to rip. Like I always use that overnight bin, or I guess now they've changed it, but like I just don't want it to get caught and rip as they're taken out. Like it's not like they handle them with care, so I always am like over taping to make sure it's a smooth, like secure package.
Yeah, I mean, I have to do it too sometimes. I'll put in a big pair of jeans or something, and it's just like, this is a little iffy. But I always make sure.
Yeah, it's funny. I've had a hard time with the padded flat rates. That's why this is worrying me even a little more. Is I can't fit as much into those padded flat rates as I can into this cardboard one, which sounds really weird. But like, I have a really hard time getting it in and stretching it without it tearing. And even when I like I can do a blazer in one of these, which like I don't do them all the time, the super thick ones. But if it's a nice easy one and it'll slide in like the side of these pants, I'll do a blazer in these or a suit jacket, as long as it's not a super expensive one. And I don't have any issues. But I've tried putting blazers or pants even like, and maybe it's because I use a poly bag first and it catches on it. I'm not really sure. Do you poly bag before you put those in there, or you just put them straight in, Jason?
I don't. And maybe would that make any difference? I mean, I wouldn't think so, but you're right about the flaps on the padded flat rates. They will tear pretty easily. Mm-hmm. I've probably torn, a couple dozen of them over the last year or two. Just like, and then the bad thing is I usually put the label on first. So if I tear it, then I'm having to reprint the label, and it's like, oh, come on,
Yeah.
But yeah, I hear you. They do tear a little bit easier. I don't use a cardboard though, only because well, it's just different reasons. Like you poly bags, you're not as worried about maybe getting wet. Right. I'm worried about getting, I don't. So I'm like, it's going to get wet, possibly. I don't know. But I don't think there's one answer for everything.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there's a couple points in the chat, a couple tips. Cutting off the self-seal part of the padded flat rate ahead of time if you don't want it to catch as you're putting things in. That's a good tip. Another one, just squishing the air out of the poly bag. That's definitely a good tip. I always do that, especially before I get into something like this. But yeah, those are all good tips, guys. Thanks for sharing those. John B said the memo even says the shape can be a complete cylinder. Sweet. All right. Well, that's well then. I appreciate Lindy doing that video. That kind of makes me sleep a little easier tonight. That it's that.
Oh wait, definitive. That's not the padded. Is that the padded flat rate or the flat rates that can be a complete cylinder? Or is he talking about something different?
I think he's talking about the flat rates. It doesn't matter the shape as long as it's sealed. So as long as there's no.
Try that.
Yeah. So you can just cylinder it up.
I'm pretty sure I may have already tried that. Actually.
Yeah, and someone just said sometimes legal flat rates are better than padded. Also keep in mind, guys, there's a huge difference between a legal flat rate and one of these. So this is smaller than legal flat rate. This is actually cheaper. It's not as wide. So there are two different cardboard sizes. So just keep that in mind.
Is the legal more to ship? I don't ship with it.
It is more to ship, and so be very careful. If you get the legal, don't pick the standard flat rate, because that'll really, with this new change, that'll really mess you up.
Yeah.
Make sure you select the right one, guys.
That's funny.
Myra said we should have a contest to see who can pack make the most tightly packed padded. Yeah, that would be pretty entertaining to see.
I've been right there at the edge. I feel like a couple times.
A couple big pair of jeans Jason is shipping.
You will go.
Yeah. Oh man.
Karin hands those to me. She's like, "Here, I'm not putting this one in an envelope. Anything above about a 40." She's like, "Here." I was like, "I got this."
And we've got 94 watching live, guys. I really appreciate everyone stopping in, joining Jason and I. Hit that like button for me if you don't mind while you're sitting here watching. Hopefully this was some value to you. I know I got a lot of value out of it because I'm not worrying as much now. And I think sometimes just having these big open forum discussions, it's just kind of put some things to rest. And like people who watch other YouTubers like Lindy, it was great to have that here. So like I hadn't seen that video, and you being able to share that, it just makes all the sharing in the community great. So appreciate that, guys.
Absolutely.
Well, anything else to add, Jason? It's about 3 minutes from my bedtime, so it's about time for my old man status to get to sleep here.
No, man. I mean, I'm the same way. I'd seen this issue. I had seen that this issue had come up, and I was like, man, what is going on with that? And I'm glad you contacted me because I was putting off researching it and figuring out.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
it doesn't affect me a ton, but it does affect me probably about, 5 to 10% of what I'll ship. So it's worth knowing, so I feel a little better about it too. I don't think it's going to be such a big deal. So I'm glad you reached out and we got some clarification.
Yeah, definitely. I feel a lot better. And I was like doing the same thing. I was putting off. I'm like, well, August 1st is like a week away. I still got time to figure it out. And it's like pushing the envelope on it. So that's good. So hopefully we don't get any flat rates returned to us in the near future. It sounds like we're in the clear.
We'll just have to see how eBay handles it on that back end if you do end up getting charged. So
it sounds like first class. It sounds like first class and standard priority is where we're going to get hit with it. Is if you miss away, right?
Right.
I mean,
that's the way I read it. I mean, we don't send any letters / large envelopes or large envelopes flats. You and I mean, we're not shipping like newspapers or things.
I think it'd be everyone's best interest, and mine included yours as well, to know the ounce charts as you go up the rank in priority, because there are bands. So like 3 to 4 ounces at a time where the price stays the same. So like it really could be beneficial. Whereas like for instance, I know it's like 8 to 12 ounces is all the same price, I think, or 9 to 12. So like if you were at 9 and 12 ounces the same price, it may be beneficial just to say 12, right? Like, yeah, it might be one of those things where that is something. Keeping one of those charts right next to your scale might be very beneficial.
I mean, you're in a e-commerce business where you ship things, so you're gonna have to understand shipping rates.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no way around that, even though it's not exciting stuff, but it's important. So you definitely want to get caught with a big bill.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agree. All right, guys. Well, it's 9:30. It's been a half hour. Appreciate Jason coming on. Appreciate you guys' feedback. I feel a lot better. If you have any other questions or value to add to this topic, leave it in the comments below so everyone can read it after, including myself. Always like to learn more about this topic and be as well informed as I can for my business. And you guys have an awesome night. We got 6 days left in July. Hope everyone pushes forward strong and finishes the month really on a high note. Check Jason's channel out, Prof Sales, on your way out. If you don't already subscribe, you need to go subscribe right now. Check her on Instagram as well, Prof Sales, and Endless Entrepreneurs for me on Instagram. Have a great night, guys. Thanks for stopping in.
Thanks, guys.